Hello, everybody. Hello there. Welcome to A2I Dyslexia live show. All Things Dyslexia is the title of everything we do, and is everything that involves dyslexia and support that one may need to unlock their full potential. Welcome to our live show. I'm in sunny Wimbledon today, and it's extremely hot. So I've got my fan right next to me, and I'm actually enjoying the breeze that's coming from the fan. One may say, well, why not open the window? Well, no, actually, because there's a lot of distraction coming from outside. So I just want to welcome everyone that's watching the show today. Hello from London. If you're watching from abroad, I want to say good evening, good afternoon, whatever the word may be. Today we have the amazing, awesome Ruth-Ellen Dankwa, who is joining us from London somewhere. And in fact, I forgot to ask exactly where she joined us from, but I'm sure when she comes live, she'll explain it to us. And the topic today is dyslexia, how to overcome self-sabotage. Now, I have gone through this self-sabotage myself, and I think from time to time I still do go through the bits where I keep saying the things I can and cannot do. And I think because I keep saying this, it's been limited beliefs, and I've sort of believed that I'm not able to. Okay, yes, I do have my dyslexia, and that's a big, massive barrier, but there are things that I can actually overcome if I set my mind to it. So I'd like to welcome the amazing Ruth, who's going to tell us a little bit about herself, why she set up her organization, and why she is so passionate to give us the top tips around self-sabotage and how we can actually overcome it. So let's get Ruth to join us now. Ruth, thank you very much for joining A2I Dyslexia live show. Here you are. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. But before we actually do that, let me just say to some of our viewers who are new at joining us, my name's Elizabeth Techi, and I'm the founder of A2I Dyslexia. Somebody actually emailed and said, what does A2I Dyslexia mean? Aspire to inspire dyslexia. I eat dyslexia, breathe dyslexia. Everything is about dyslexia because I'm passionate to help so many people overcome these specific learning difficulties. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to now hand it over to Ruth, who's going to introduce herself and tell us why this subject is very close to her heart. Ruth, welcome to A2I Dyslexia show.
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Ruth-Ellen, and I'm dyslexic and dyslexic, so it's definitely close to my heart, just the whole topic of dyslexia. I also have a 20-year-old son who is autistic as well. So just the whole of neurodiversity has always been a big hot topic for me because it's about the success of having these diverse needs. I run an organization that helps people to be celebrated, not just tolerated. And we basically coach people who are neurodiverse so that they can have the best version of themselves show up every day. I also do some healing modalities that help them to release emotions that stop them from really achieving their goals, because we know there's emotional repercussions of neurodiversity, you know, the stress, the anxiety, and all of those other things. And I can't remember the other question, so I'm going to pop it back over.
Don't worry, Ruth, honestly, I just love it. I love it because for a minute, I'll probably forget as well. So never mind, we'll get there in the end. Well, it was a little bit about yourself, why you do what you do. What made you start your business in terms of being a coach, supporting dyslexics and neurodiverse? What made you go into this area of work? Yeah.
For me, when I found that I was neurodiverse, dyslexic and dyslexic at the same time at the age of 31, 32, and because it was quite late in adulthood, I wanted to actually find out who knew from childhood the success strategies that would be helpful for me. And so I kind of went on this exploration, this adventure. And I found so many great people that were neurodiverse. But I also found people that were still struggling. And so that's where I kind of was so passionate about helping people just a little bit more to overcome their beliefs that might be stopping them from moving forward.
Right. We've just had, in fact, when people join us, Ruth, I will actually sort of acknowledge that they're there. So Marcia's been on and said hello. Now, you know Marcia, you've done some work with Marcia in the past. We've had Marcia on we've had Marcia on the show. Another phenomenal, amazing young lady doing all she can to support dyslexics. Rosemary Obuba, hello and welcome to A2I Dyslexia live show. Now, it's really interesting, Ruth, to have you on this show because you don't just deal with people with dyslexia, you deal with people with neurodiverse. Now, some of that could be autism, it could be ADHD, it could be dyscalculia, it could be dyspraxia, and it could be ASD, it could be Tourette's, it could be anything. So your line of work is quite broad, really. But within all those specific learning difficulties that I've just mentioned, there are a few people that need to overcome self-sabotage. And I think this is why the work you do is so amazing. And it's such an honor to have you on the show today to give us the top tips of how we can move on from where we are. So let me read a little bit about your biography. And I read it and it blew me away, actually. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. So Ruth-Ellen Dankwa is a belonging speaker, accredited trainer. Now, this is a bit of a mouthful word for me, but I'll try. Hypnotherapist. Wow, I've done it. I had to keep repeating that for a week to get it right. So I managed to get it right. What's EFT master practitioner? What's EFT?
So emotional freedom technique is tapping on the meridian energy points to release the stress.
Right,
and limit
okay.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest with you, a lot of people with neurodiverse, because of anxiety, stress, I mean, I get, my palms get sweaty when I just have to even go into a meeting. I'm like, oh, goodness, what am I going to say or do? This is why I think having all these Zoom meetings have been so beneficial, because people can't see you, and you know it's okay. They can see obviously online, but you know physically that can be a bit challenging. Now, your NLP master practitioner. What is NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming. So it focuses on beliefs that don't serve us, and it helps to reprogram and train the mind to have beneficial beliefs. So yeah.
Okay.
As well.
And then we've got get this muddled up for a minute. So we've got DBT therapist. What is DBT?
Yeah. So DBT is dialectal behavior therapy. So again, it's centered around behavior and how to change somebody's existing behavior that's not serving them. So all of these modalities are all about how do you help somebody change their actual behavior without just telling them do affirmations, you know? Right. So it works on the foundation of doing meditation, but also learning about distress tolerance. So you know when you're in distress and you're like, oh my God, I'm stressed out. Not just about, oh, I'm going to meditate and calm myself down. It's having strategies that actually work to help you cope with that stress. So you actually have a tool for it. And obviously finding out ways for emotional regulation as well.
Right. So you're a meditation teacher, is it Reiki master?
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Past life regression therapist, certified life and business coach. In 2012, she's a co-founder, or she did co-found, and I think it was a meetup peer-to-peer network called Dyslexic Success, to help people with dyslexia to support each other by sharing their idea on how to excel from the stage. She coaches, facilitates healing and parental wound dyslexic retreats. Now that is so beautiful, because you had a retreat about a year ago, didn't you?
Yeah, with the amazing Marcia. Yeah, it was really transformational for me just to be in there. But yeah, because there are parental wounds that come with dyslexia, especially if you didn't necessarily know from dot. So yeah, it was a really great experience, and we hope to do some more as well.
Fabulous. Okay, so so she had this retreat and believes we should go where we celebrate and not tolerate it. Oh, can't get the word out today, Ruth. Can't get the word out. It's all part of my dyslexia. Pronunciation is a big thing for me, honestly. Anyway, let's move on from that word. Find another word for it. I find pronunciation to be such a huge hurdle, but it ain't going to stop me from doing what I'm doing. Hey, you know, I'll find another word sometimes. Yeah. Her mission is to help more underrepresented business owners to be more visible in society using visibility, emotional intelligence. Right. Bit of a mouthful, but I've got all that together. Ruth, amazing. The work you do it just blows me away. And today's show is really special. So I'm a little bit relaxed and chilled. And the only reason why this is because, you know, it's going to be a really good topic. I just want to say to our viewers, if you're watching right now and you think that there's a lot of self-sabotage that you go through, and you beat yourself up and you keep saying yourself you can't, you've got limited beliefs, self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever it might be. Today's show is for you. Invite a friend, invite a family member, invite a colleague, and watch this show together with us. So that's a bit about Ruth. We're going to dive straight into the show. And my first question I've got, Ruth, is what is self-sabotage and how does this affect someone with dyslexia particularly?
I like to always kind of give you a sort of a metaphor to an extent of what self-sabotage is, to make it more easier. Or even a story. So I want you to imagine you've been given a project by somebody. Perhaps the project is all about how to specialize in whatever it is you do. So for example, a project on productivity, and it's 5 ways to be productive. And even though you know how to do this, you end up procrastinating. You leave it to the last minute, and then when it comes to the day of presentation, it's half-assed. It's almost like you didn't even try, because you had this fear that if you did give it all your all and it didn't work out, then it would be traumatic. So you just gave it a little bit. So with self-sabotage, the way it plays out is it's in your behavior. It's in you, not necessarily in what you say. It can be imposter syndrome as well in certain respects, but it's more so how you behave when it comes to owning your unique gifts and talents and almost not showing it to the world because you are not honoring what you bring. It's almost like you don't believe in it to an extent, so you don't want to show it to the world.
Right. And would you say you've met many people across the work you do that actually experience this every day? Yeah, I
think 99% of the people that I meet have self-sabotaged in the past or currently. And thing is, it doesn't necessarily go away. It's much more of those things of there's a new behavior that's come up in a new project or a new thought process. So it's much more like, okay, it's come up again, but now it looks a bit different. So it's just constant work to overcome it.
Right. So Ruth, you've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD. Is that right?
So I'm officially dyslexic and dyspraxic, and my ADHD is much more of a comorbidity. So I haven't actually gone for an official diagnosis, but yeah.
So that must have been, at some point, you must have thought, well, actually, I need help here, and this is why I can help people by setting up your organization, I guess. What's the name of your company? Just I know you told me earlier, but just
so it's Celebrating Not Tolerated.
Okay, that's amazing. And of course, viewers, if you've joined us right now, today's show is about dyslexia and how to overcome self-sabotage. We've got the lovely Ruth Dankwa on the show, who is going to tell us step by step of how. She's not going to tell us how to eradicate this, but she's actually saying there are steps and tips that you can use to stop beating yourself and actually, do your best that you can and fulfill your full potential, really. And it is something that we've all gone through, regardless of having dyslexia or not, But I think particularly it's quite evident in people with neurodiverse, i.e. dyslexia and so forth. So thank you so much for that answer. I think Marcia dropped a lovely comment there. If we can have it back, I'm obviously speaking to our studio manager. So Marcia said, self-sabotage has affected my behavior or thought patterns, which held me back and prevented me in the past from doing what I needed to do. Marcia, I can definitely hold my hand up for that too. I've been wanting to write a book for the last 10 years. It's still sitting there, I haven't written it. Call it procrastination or call it self-sabotage. It's one or the other, and it still hasn't been done. But at some point, I think, I will. Now, I couldn't agree with you, Marcia. So I've got Linda Darby, who, what is interesting is that our what's that word? Hang on a minute. What is that word? Perception of ourselves is important. How do we, as parents, help promote our children's is that ethos? I don't know what that word is. Can you read that word?
Our children's self-worth.
Well, there we go. Right. So that's a question, Ruth. Would you be able to answer that for us?
Yeah. So self-worth is something where you have to, it's literally how you think of yourself, right? And how, regardless of what the output is. So I think sometimes we tie, especially as neurodiverse people, we tie our accolades as our worth. So if you've got a qualification in something, or if we've achieved something, we almost believe that that's part of our worth. And so in order for people to understand, or children specifically, to build up their self-worth, it's much more around confirming who they are as individuals, not about what they do in the world, but who they are as in. So I think one of the first things is to really find out your child's core values. And I know sometimes that can be a bit like out there, but like what's important to them in terms of what's important to them in terms of their friendship circles. What do they like to see in people? What type of behavior do they like to have? Because we can only truly feel worthy when we actually understand what is worth looking at, what's worth focusing on. And so I think if you want to promote your child's self-worth, you have to basically show them what your idea of self-worth is, as in knowing that your self-care, like showing them through practices as well, how you take care of yourself, knowing that you're worth it. You're worth the self-care some days, you're worth the self-care every day, in fact. Knowing that it's trickled down by the way you speak to yourself. It's trickled down by the way that you talk to others around you as well, and how you show unconditional love. So it's not just like this one shoe size fits all. It's kind of this ongoing, let's look at the process of worth. Let's look at what it means to you, and knowing that it isn't tied to your behavior. You might do something naughty, but that doesn't mean you're worth any less. So just kind of always solidifying that and bringing that home all the time, and having a conversation as you did a bad thing, you're not a bad person, because the difference is huge, right? You could think I've done a bad thing and believe that you're a bad person because of it, and that can stop us from seeing our true worth. Know that you are sort of priceless as well, and that there is no price tag attached to you, and that even if when it comes to like looking at work and jobs and things like that, that the money that you earn is nothing to do with how much you're worth. So one of the things you could do is write a list of things that you love specifically about your child's behavior. Like, I love the way that you are so considerate to others. I love the way that you are always present, and I love how creative you are. So just feed into them actual traits you see in them every day. Nobody likes sort of a false, you're such a good boy. People want to see specifics, because that's where the worth part comes in. And I think,
No, go on, Ruth. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
The last thing I'd say is, if you've ever read Gary, I think it's Chadwick's Love Languages, there's certain things that we like to receive in terms of our love language. And so find out what your child's love language is. Find out how they like to receive praise. Do they like to receive it through words of affirmation? Do they like hugs, or are they much more people who like quality time? So do the 6 languages test, and find out the way that they like to receive, because when you've given them that affirmation, words of affirmation, it's going to be so important as to how you're delivering it, because some things are going to land if it's based on their actual way of receiving love. If it's not based on the way they like to receive love, then all you're going to be doing is telling them words that are just falling on deaf ears. So take that test as well, because it all helps.
Lovely. It'd be great if we could have that at some point and share it with our viewers and people that connect with us live on this show. Thank you so much for that, Ruth. And also, I think like children sort of learn what we do. So a lot of the things we say, I've heard my youngest daughter, because sometimes I use the word, I'm not good at this. I hear her saying it. And I said, you're good at everything, Jay. She goes, yeah, but Mum, you say you're not good at this. And because she hears me saying it. So, it becomes, they learn of what we do, basically. And of course, Linda Darby's come back with, true, my young person sees it may be them that's the problem. Where I say, no, the universe has not sent someone to you yet. Right, thoughts, love language, I like this, sorry, we'll get there in a minute. How can I get more of your good advice? Now, Linda, when we finish the show, we will definitely put up Ruth's social media links and how you can contact Ruth. And of course, I don't think it's just Linda that would need your help, Ruth. And we could all do with what you do, to be honest with you. But that's how you can connect with Ruth when the show comes to an end. And Marcia's come back and say, as adult, I developed positive self-talk, which is really brilliant. I find that a lot of dyslexic people, I can't speak for all dyslexics, but I find some dyslexic people I've met would really don't kind of believe in themselves. If you even say to them, that was so brilliant what you did, well done, all you get is, oh really, I could have done better. And you're like, it's brilliant. Own that. I think a lot of people see it as, what's the word I'm looking for? They see it as maybe they're bragging, or they see it as this, they're not worth that. And I'm like, well, actually, you've done it, and this is what you can do. And I'm a typical example, I'll be honest with you. It's only recently that I've managed to say thank you for that. I did do that. And if it means that you're bragging or boasting, then hey, so be it. But I have to actually accept that I've been brilliant at doing something. Do you see what I mean? Instead of knocking myself down all the time.
Completely. I totally get that. And I think we have to learn that we can't keep on trying to make other people around us comfortable just because we want to sort of, by dimming our light. If we dim our light, we don't make other people brighter. We just make the whole world darker. So it's very important that we shine so bright, and we allow others to see how we're owning our space and how we're showing up in the world and how we're not ashamed of our great talent. And I think the more you kind of, and all the words are like, you don't want to brag and all those things. Where does the word brag come from? It comes from people that have probably said, you're bragging now. People that have put limits on you, right?
Absolutely.
And so you have to be like, oh no, I'm bragging. Yeah, I'm bragging about, and then you say it. Because at the same time, if I don't brag on me, who's going to brag on me?
Absolutely. I mean, I give myself a pat on the back every day, and I said, well done, Lizzie. You managed to send that email. You done really well. So many mistakes are in there, but you sent it. Yeah.
No.
You managed to send the email, Lizzie.
No, Lizzie. I think we've got to definitely encourage ourselves, talk to ourselves in the best friend, highest self way. Like, oh my gosh, you did so well by sending that email. That email was amazing. Well done for doing that. And next time, it's going to even be more amazing. But even if it's not, I totally appreciate what you just did right now.
Absolutely. So I guess it's changing our mindset in how we speak about things. And I believe in the universe, and I believe in I've watched The Secret and all those videos and so forth. And I very much believe that the things we say manifest and become who we are. So the last 4 or 5 years, I had to definitely change the way I talk and the way I speak about certain things. If it's going to come out negative, I'll change it completely, because that's not what I want to hear, And I have met a lot of people that are going through, or you can't actually get them to shift from that place. And I think it's great having you in the show talking about, things that we can change to be better people in society, really. So my next question then, Ruth, is how does self-sabotage manifest in our everyday life? How does it, I guess we've covered some of it.
So it's just like, putting bills back. So in the everyday, so let's look at different elements of our life. In work, we sit on a project for longer than expected, and we then try to do it last minute. We don't speak up in meetings, even though we've got brilliant, fantastic ideas, because we think people are not going to want to hear from us. Perhaps in our relationships, we don't speak up about things that make us uncomfortable because we don't feel like we've got a place in there, or we're moaning. We almost punish ourselves for trying to meet our own needs. In our finances, perhaps instead of asking for that pay rise, you don't. So you kind of grow resentful and don't even ask for one. And perhaps you overplan. You plan so much that by the time you've actually done the execution, you've got no time left. So there are so many ways it shows up. And I think the bottom line is it stops you from actually achieving the goal. If we're going to look at it in simplistic ways, it stops you from achieving everything you want to, because you're not actually taking steps to achieve it.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that, Ruth. That's really, really awesome. The answer you just given has just got me really thinking very deep. So it just moves me on to the next question now. What are some of the reasons why dyslexics will self-sabotage? Do you think it stems from childhood? Do you think it's something that,
Yeah, I think it's a combination of childhood. There's a concept called goal trauma as well, but I'll come to that in a second. But so in terms of our childhoods, if you wasn't necessarily diagnosed as a child, or even if you was, if there was people around you that didn't feed into you words of encouragement or let you know that your work was of value, or even you actually experience some form of negativity because of the work that you did, or because of the way that you showed up, or because you was called quirky or weird, all of those things have stopped you from actually shining your light because you feel like that part of you shouldn't be seen. So it's actually, it doesn't just, come from nowhere. It's from our sort of unconscious ways of being. So people might have said something even about themselves. We might have taken their thought beliefs, their patterns, just like you said about parenthood. Your child doesn't believe that about themselves, but you say that about yourself, so they start to believe that about themselves. So we pick up things so easily. So we see in sometimes some TV shows and the messages that are there, and it's kind of about knowing who you are in order to not actually take that on board. And I think most of the time when we are in this sort of environment, we don't even know who we truly are. So we are constantly picking up other people's identities and saying that these things are us. So in terms of dyslexia, schoolwork, the red pens, this is wrong, etc. In terms of dyslexic specific, there's a self-esteem issue, right? We're highly sensitive when it comes to some of our work as well, and we've had to build up our resilient bones. So in terms of that, we have a fear of people telling us that this is not good enough. So we don't always, you've probably got like 20 blog posts or 50 LinkedIn things that you wanted to share, and maybe only 5 of those are being shared because you don't believe in the awesomeness that you bring. And I think that comes down to the self-belief.
Wow. And I'm a very typical example of that, if I have to be honest with you. It took me a long time to get to where I've got to right now, to be honest. It was always, what will people say? What if I don't pronounce it right? Like now, there's loads of words I can't pronounce right. But you know what? I've gone from a place where if I can't pronounce that word or spell it, I'd have to use another word for it. And if there ain't no other word, then so be it. I tried. Because dyslexia, I normally say to people, it's real. It's real in the sense that sometimes if you're not careful, not even being able to pronounce that particular word can bring some kind of shame to yourself. And then it makes you a bit set back thinking, actually, who's going to laugh at me? I mean, it took me years. When I started reading properly, I was like 15. And that's not even properly. I'm still struggling to read now. So sometimes when we do these live shows, certain questions might come up and it's like, I've got to take my time and get this right. But if I don't, it's okay. Part of my dyslexia. It's a hidden condition. There's nothing I can do about that. Do you see what I mean? And because of like, for example, not being able to pronounce certain word or be able to spell something, a lot of people would not even come forward or do things that they're supposed to be doing, which can make them flourish, really, because they're a bit afraid of what people say or people might laugh at them. It's people's perception more than anything else. And I think for me, I've gone beyond that. I'm more like, what can I bring to the table? I'm not going to be good at everything because not everyone is. But when I am good, I'm going to run with it. And if it's just that word I can't pronounce or spell it, that word I use another word, or I won't use the word at all. If that's the case.
It's a strategy, right? You found a strategy that works for you, and I think that's awesome. And I think it's a testimony to you as well, because at the same time, we must be overcomers and know that we're conquerors. And if we continue to kind of have these things in our place, then we're not going to move forward. So
absolutely. So this is just for our viewers. If you've just joined us now, we've got the lovely Ruth-Ellen, who is talking about dyslexia and how to overcome self-sabotage. If you've got any questions at all, please do drop us a comment and we'll do our best to answer it. And it's best maybe you drop it now because Ruth is here, then obviously she can answer your question for you. If not, and you want to obviously ask after the show, we're more than welcome to contact us on all our different social media platforms. And of course, Ruth's details will be out at the end of the show and you can contact her direct for the switch. Will help you go around sabotage. The more you can flourish, really, because there's no point sitting there and hoping that you can or can't, or saying all these things and yet you can't move forward. Now Linda's come back and Linda said, truly to face our fears is key. Now everyone's got some kind of anxiety and fear, and I couldn't agree with Linda more. As a dyslexic myself, to be honest with you, when I actually finally told people, I was just like, they couldn't believe it. They said, you really? I said, yeah. I said, look, I can talk till the cows come home, but same thing that you've got me to speak about, you ain't going to get it in the form of writing, And it took me years to own up to it, to say, actually, this is a real condition. I need help to be able to move forward. I think Linda just put a question, and it's actually gone, but maybe our studio manager can bring it back. I applaud you both. So interesting. Thank you, Linda. I think we can give ourselves a pat on the back for that, Ruth, for actually coming out and helping people. You need to overcome this. Now, Marcia said childhood and trauma, confidence, not feeling good enough. I would always apologizing in my adulthood and saying sorry. That is amazing, Marcia. It's really great that you've actually dropped this comment, because I've stopped apologizing. Sorry, I can't say this. Sorry, I've made a mistake. I'm so sorry, I'm dyslexic. There ain't nothing to be sorry about by having this condition. And one day I had to sit back and thought, I'm not apologizing no more. You know, I don't need to apologize, because the more you apologize that I'm so sorry I can't spell, that's a weakness in itself. And if you're not careful and you're in the workplace, some people take that literally, and that's when bullying sets in. You know, in the workplace, for example, I stopped apologizing. I said, look, you might have to give me time to get back to you on that, because I need to get the wording right, maybe, rather than I'm sorry. And I have met so many people that would actually apologize. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. So what? It's okay. You know, it's okay to have this condition. But why must we apologize before we even have to strike a conversation? Yeah. So I just thought, you know, Hannah, thank you for that, Marcia. That's amazing. Yeah. So Ruth, what advice will you give to any dyslexic dealing with one, imposter syndrome, or how to overcome self-sabotage? I'll do one at a time.
Okay, so imposter syndrome is always kind of about the way you perceive yourself, as in not being perhaps good enough to fulfill a request, or, you know, believing that you're going to fail and you're going to be found out, right? You feel like an imposter. And I think in terms of overcoming that, it's there's lots of approaches you can take, but I think it all starts with acceptance. Accepting who you are right now, accepting that, you know, you are not confident in that area right now, but also accepting that you're not an imposter, and then working through those emotions and actually start to actually analyze those thoughts. Look back at where you first thought that thought. Do some work, sit down with yourself, meditate on it, ruminate on it if you have to. But I think what happens most of the time is what we do is we try to avoid being with ourselves. We try to skip on to the next thing and pretend that, you know, this isn't happening. And I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is give yourself time to sit with yourself so that you can recognize just how amazing you are, and anything that's contrary to that thought belief, that pattern of positive thoughts, you can start to address it. You can't address something you can't see. And if you continue to try to avoid it, you're constantly trying to not see it. So I think the first step is to definitely accept where you're at. And then actually to choose, what do I want to feel instead? Ask yourself, what do I want to feel like instead? And then start to write those words. And then you can then, from those words, like maybe you want to feel confident, you want to feel more than worthy, you want to feel competent. So all of those types of words, maybe you've put that in your sort of box of affirmations to an extent. But what you're going to be doing then is going to be saying, okay, so how can I do that this week? Or how can I do this today? And actually having an actual action, not just words of affirmation, which are great, but an action like, okay, so if you think of it like this as well, if I just change my behavior 1% every day, over 100 days, I will get to 100%.
That's right. I like that.
Right? So 1% is all you need every day. And over the period of a year, you've already accomplished it before. You've accomplished it three times over. So it's just about you saying, actually, I'm going to sit down, and that self-development work, that personal development work I'm doing, before I do self-development, I've got to do self-acceptance, because you can't develop things you can't accept, right?
Absolutely. So I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Totally agree with you on that. That was amazing. That's really, really amazing. And you're right. Accept, you know, where you are. And sometimes as well, Ruth, maybe ask for help. There's always someone somewhere that's willing to support or help. And I think if you don't ask, you don't get. Now, what I find is that for me personally, sometimes when you ask and it's a no, and then it's like, oh gosh, it's a rejection. And that kind of puts you back a bit. But why not ask? Not everybody's going to say a yes. Sometimes that no takes you to a different level where you can actually, you know, excel by doing more work around the area. So I think asking for help is also one way to look at it, really.
Yeah, and rejection, if you want to, I don't really believe in rejection to an extent, probably because of my sales background, but rejection is protection. Anything you've been rejected from, there's a reason, and there's something better on its way. And I think, definitely ask for support, but understand what it is you need support with. I think it's very challenging to get support and then not necessarily know what it is exactly you need, because then you get frustrated at the person for not giving you what you want. So you're like, why haven't you helped me? It's like, because you said you wanted this, but actually you needed this. So that's why you're sitting with yourself for a little bit, because you want to understand, what is it I actually need? What is it that will help me? Because sometimes we go to people because we think they're going to give us something where we're lacking. We're not lacking anything, but sometimes we need support. And so it's very, very vital that we say, I actually need you to help me with this. And so, one of the ways I like to do a request is you look at the problem, and then you see how it affects you. You see this, you state what the payoff is, as in, this is how it's going to help me. And then you then say, this is the payoff for me and you. So, for example, if you was asking a mentor to help you or something to help you with a bit of work, you say, this is my problem. I'm really struggling with really reading this text and understanding it. The comprehension for me is really challenging. This is how it's affected me. I spend like 2 hours trying to read this, and it's really taking up a lot of my time. If the situation is, if I learn how to do this quicker, you give me some support, I can do this in like maybe 30 minutes. And the payoff for you is that, I get to be maybe a colleague that's just a bit more bubbly. I get to be more effective and efficient. And, mentoring me is going to help you as well, because I think mentoring is a two-way street. So that's how you could have a conversation about that, approaching people. So it's not just, one thing. It's not just like, I want you to give me something. It's like, there's a payoff for you as well. So,
yeah. So we've got another message from Linda. Honestly, Linda, thank you so much, and welcome to A2I Dyslexia live show. So Linda said, OMG, I like that self-acceptance. I think it's quite difficult though, isn't it, Ruth, to kind of accept that there is an issue or a problem? I know I was going through that. I was in denial for many years when I was diagnosed with dyslexia, but you're going to show us how to. Change 1% each day. She loves that. She said, look, change 1% each day. And I actually love that, Ruth. Because for me, I'm like, I need to change like 100% in a day. But I like that 1% every day. Because then, I don't know, by the end of the month, you don't know how many percentages you might have done yourself a favor for, So she said, that's a genius idea. And sometimes we get overwhelmed with not only what to change, but how to change it. Yeah. And she's so right in what she's saying. And I think you said something there, Ruth, that was really, really, it really stood out for me. Now, part of my dyslexia is, okay, I need help, and I go to that person for that help. But it's like, what, do you actually mean this, or do you need that? Because for me, it's more sort of everything getting muddled up in a mind, and the memory of what I want to do or what I want to say. So you're right in saying, look, sit down, plan what you need to do before you go to someone for that support. Because if you're not careful sometimes, as a dyslexic, you end up with what you didn't ask for, because you've said it one way, but you mean the other. Do you see what I mean? So it's really important what you said there. Yeah. Now, this question is really, really important. I have to ask you this. How do we deal with limited beliefs and self-fulfilling prophecy? How do we deal with that?
Oh, there's so many ways. So I'm a big fan of sort of shadow work, which is just about looking at the shadow self. So if you've ever read Carl Jung's work, he's a psychologist, he's passed away now, but he always used to talk about how we should accept the light and the dark. There's two parts of us, right? So there's the limiting beliefs that come up for us, normally from our ego. Now, our ego is sometimes people like perceive as this bad person, this bad thing within ourselves. And the ego is there to actually protect us. Our ego is actually can be our friend, but we just need to learn how to cultivate it. So in terms of dealing with our limiting beliefs, the first thing I'd say is be so gentle with yourself. Be gentle, have self-compassion. Because in this space of change, nobody wants to really change. What's worked for us is it served us for so long. So it's like a boss coming up to you saying, I need you to do this now. You're going to be like, excuse me, And so if you do that to yourself, you're going to be like, not doing that. So it's self-compassion is so important. So first of all, nothing within you is bad or good. It's kind of like there's a grey area, right? And so what you're going to be doing with these limit beliefs, you're going to see how has it been serving you, what's it been giving you, because there's always a payoff with these beliefs. They protect you. So if a belief is I'm not an author, I'm not writing this book yet, maybe you don't believe that what you're going to share with the world is good enough, right? So in order to address that limit beliefs, you've got to then start with, okay, that I'm going to put that there for a second. But what is it that I'm going to put in this book that I believe is going to help people? And then you start from that. You start from talking about all the things that is going to help you with. So it's like you're taking these beliefs and you're pulling them apart. All it is, pulling them apart. And then, so I like to use, fear is like, somebody stands for an acronym, false evidence appearing real. People say that, but I like to see as fear as this acronym. Finally, an expanding attitude request. So it's causing you to expand your perspective, because the more we have an expansive perspective, the more we actually understand what's going on, the more we can actually change our belief system, because we can see ourselves as this. We can actually move it from ourselves a little bit and say, this belief about me not writing this book and not having anything good to say, okay, I understand that. But what if one person changed their life because of that book?
Absolutely.
What if I got the support I needed to get this book out there without having to deal with some of the stresses? And what if this book helped to save a life?
Absolutely.
And if I didn't put this book out, then I won't be able to do that. So you hear where the compassion comes from, right? The compassion is there. And so it's about reframing where you're coming from, and then looking at how is your mind asking you to expand? How is it asking you to look at it this a different way? And so it becomes this, self-fulfilling prophecies are really funny, because the more you sort of you're speaking goodness into your life, right? When you say, I'm an amazing book writer, I'm a published author, I'm a bestseller, I'm a world changer. You're speaking good things into your life. Now, our brain, normally 90% of what we think every day is negative. That's why it's so important we have to program it, right? So it's very important that we reprogram our mind constantly.
Right.
And in order for us to do that, we've got to get and make it a practice. That means you've got to schedule it in. Schedule it into your calendar, just like you would schedule in the gym, because you're doing brain gym work. You're reprogramming your mind, and you can have stuff in the morning, you can have stuff in the evening, you can have stuff throughout the day. But when you schedule it in as well, it just helps you to remember, this is what I'm increasing in my life. I'm having more of this. I'm not trying to change this bad habit. I'm replacing it.
Right. Thank you so much, Ruth. There was a question just there from, I think it's Silky, her name is. How can family best support someone who has dyslexia to feel more confident? How can family best support someone? Yeah. I mean, let's have a scenario. How can, I don't know, a parent support their child, or a partner support their wife or husband who's got dyslexia, for example? Yeah. How can we do that?
I think it's sometimes just being a person that is the soundboard. So it's not about, sometimes people with dyslexia have amazing ideas, right? And their brain capacity is fantastic, and they're great problem solvers. Sometimes, though, they don't normally have somebody available to just listen to them. Sometimes people are shutting them down and making them feel like what they're saying isn't worth anything. So I think the first thing is to actually stay and ask them how they are and what is it they want to achieve. And then when they tell you what they want to achieve, you can say, okay, how do you want to achieve that? Because we could be confident in us. Like I was not confident public speaking for a while, and then I went through a process to be confident. I kept going to groups. I kept learning how to do it, and so it became a muscle, and I became confident because I became more competent. Because competence derives confidence, when it just goes around the circle. So in order for somebody to feel more confident, it's not just like confident in all areas. What specific area are we talking about here? Because I know there's some brilliant people that are watching this that are confident in perhaps their work, confident in speaking to others, in groups, but maybe not so confident speaking to people one-to-one. And so you have to be very specific as what they want to feel confident in, and then make it a tangible thing. So what would that actually look like? And ask them. So, okay, so if it's confident for a child, what does that look like? Does that look like speaking in front of a classroom of 30 people without shaking and getting anxious? Or does it mean making new friends and speaking to strangers? When you can get very clear on that, it's going to be so much easier for them to then hit that goal, because you can't hit a goal that is invisible.
That's right.
And so I want you to think of it like you've got this sort of bow and arrow, and you've got this board, and in the middle is where you're trying to focus on. Again, focus on that 1% every day. If confidence is to feel more confident as a dyslexic person, if it's just about articulating what you need, then how can you articulate what you need to others in the next day? First of all, start with your inner circle and then go outward. So your inner circle could be your friends and family, right? And then so ask for small things. Can you do the washing up for me? Because I find for the next 5 minutes or something, right? And then it could go on to something else. Can you take me to this place, this location, because I can't drive? It's small increments, building up that muscle. Every day you're like, yes, you know? So,
fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's almost the end of the show, Ruth, and I just have to ask you this before we go. Thank you for everything that you just said there, and it's been amazing. There's one thing I'd love to share with our viewers at the end of the show, or as we repost the live show. You said something about fear, and you didn't use what I'm used to, but you used something else, and I love it. I really love what you said. It'd be great to actually share that with our viewers when we finally post the live show on all our different platforms, social media platform. Now, one top tip for anyone who might be going through self-sabotage and need to overcome this on a gradual basis. What's the one final word you would say before we come off air? We've got 2 minutes to go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes, literally.
Okay, you're self-sabotaging yourself. Okay, so I think the first thing is to find out what that goal is. And the goal's got to be, the goal that you want to achieve has got to be bigger than your fear. So if you have a fear, I would say work through the fear. And the way you work through the fear is by doing that. You could do hypnotherapy, you could do emotional freedom technique, but I think where you can start with is, first of all, writing down what is coming up for you in that fear, because there's a payoff there. If it's about for self-sabotaging yourself because you don't think you're good enough, then find evidence in your past that shows that you are good enough. There's evidence there that says you are good enough. You can actually write that down, like in terms of because I'm a child of God, or because I'm somebody's daughter or somebody's son, or it could be something that simple. But I think you've got to make it a daily practice to affirm yourself. You cannot go outside the world and ask them to validate you. You've got to find ways to validate yourself. And
Absolutely.
So anyone that's out there thinking, oh, how do I stop self-sabotaging myself? No one's going to actually ever give you anything to self-sabotage yourself. You've got to validate yourself. And that starts from within, and that inner work. So do the inner work, take it day by day, and be self-compassionate to yourself.
Fantastic. Ruth, thank you so much for joining HY Dyslexia Live Show, all things dyslexia. Your advice, top tips, everything you've shared today, I have learned so much from it. We've got 1 minute before we say goodbye. And next week, I just want to say that we've got the lovely Tumi coming on the show. We'll be talking about dyspraxia and me. And Tumi's got dyspraxia, but he's done amazing work and has really sort of, as a Black young man, he's done really well for himself. So we'll have him next week. So viewers, join us same time next week, same time, same place. Ruth, I want to say thank you so much for coming to HY Dyslexia Live Show. We appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much from Linda. Thank you from Marcia. Thank you for everybody who joined us today on our show. And we will share Ruth's details. Of course, her website's just come up. Ruth, you're doing amazing work as a young Black lady with all the knowledge you've got, and you're helping the community and Farfetch. You're working with companies, amazing things that you're doing. I want to salute you and say thank you very much. And well done for the work you're doing, and continue to do what you do. And it's great. Awesome having you on the show. So viewers, thank you very much. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye for now. Bye-bye.